What is up? We are back with another episode of Let's Talk Snowboarding presented by Mountain Vibes. And this one hits home for me a little bit because this is one of my day one homies up at Mount Hood. We got Jason Garmany joining the podcast. Jason, how we doing?
Doing well, doing well. Just enjoying the spring and enjoying the time. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been went up to Schweitzer today and did a little bit of recording with one of our mutual homies, Pat Newton, and hopefully the footage is good. Did a little bit of work up there too, and ski school and stuff. So yeah, it was a good day. How's it going in Bend? I heard you said that you were at Bachelor yesterday, got kind of soaked, but the snow was still pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's been it's always funny. It seems like every year we get hit with like the like everywhere across the country we always get hit with like the early fake spring. So it's like sunny, it's really nice, the vibes are out, and then like the next week we get hit back with winter, and it feels like this week has been like the return of winter. And yeah, it was a little wet out there, but snow's accumulating and winter still has more to say, I guess.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It seems like it's like kind of an epic. Well, I mean, it's been pretty epic for you guys. Like the totals coming out of Bend are just insane, and same with like most of the Cascades and stuff. But it just seems like it might be an epic. It has been an epic March, and maybe it'll bleed into April. Maybe we might have a really nice long season. That's what I'm hoping for. So
Yeah, it's probably gonna. I mean, it's been an incredible season. I mean, given the way that it started, February and February, March kind of provided for us, and it seems like there's still more in the forecast. So yeah, bring it on.
yeah, bring it on. That's what I say. Yeah, it's kind of been it was a slow start, but I think we caught up, so that's good. So dude, let's take it back, dude. I know you're from Indiana. Where are you at from Indiana? Like what town did you grow up in? What part of the state? And kind of talk about how you got introduced into snowboarding back there.
Well, born and raised in Northwest Indiana, just kind of like 5 miles south of Lake Michigan, like an hour away from Chicago. Real steel industry, part of that area, but yeah, just your average, average all American town. Grew up playing sports and soccer and all that fun stuff. And there wasn't really like, I didn't really know too much about skiing or snowboarding until I kind of just stumbled upon it when I was 12 or 13, I think. A buddy of mine, he showed me like what a real snowboard was, over at like a little drainage behind our house. And like before then, I always like, those Kmart snowboards, like the plastic things that you would just get for like $5. Like to me, that was snowboarding when I was a kid. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's what it was. Then he showed me like what a real snowboard was. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna try this out. And tried it out. I was like, this is really fun. So I told my parents about it, and when they were young, they skied a lot. They skied all over the Midwest. They swore up and down that their kids would be on skis the day we can walk, but that kind of just never really happened. So when I brought it to their attention, they were like totally on board. Like, oh, cool. Yeah, you want to snowboard? Sure. Let's make it happen. And I, got my first setup when I was, 13, I think, maybe 14. Went up, my brother, my older brother, and his friend was, a seasoned snowboarder, and he took me up for my first day, kind of took me under his wing, and it was very, this is how you go, this is how you stop. All right, just follow me around. So that's kind of how I learned how to snowboard, is followed him around. And remember that first day, I was like, dude, this is really fun. I'm gonna do this forever. And yeah, but Indiana, there's not too much of like a culture, like a ski snowboard culture. Or at least where I grew up, it was more of like every couple of friends here and there, they went up like few times a year up to like Michigan for like 300-foot vert slopes. just with the family, but there wasn't really like a culture behind it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that what was the name of your home mountain?
so my home mountain where I first started riding is called Bittersweet, and it maxed out at I think 400 feet tall. I think there was like four lifts and a few rope
Mhm.
tows, and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that I mean, that's kind of like the now the norm for the Midwest. I mean, the rope tow culture in the Midwest is just out of hand right now. Like so much talent coming out of those rope tows and wherever it may be. It could be Troll up in Wisconsin or there's just so many that I could name, but it's kind of crazy. Like, is that do you think that that helped you um when you first started out, like getting your reps up and stuff like that into the rider that you are now? Because you fucking send, dude. Like you see it if you're on your Instagram.
it's funny how that actually works. So like the typical Midwest rider is just a rail wizard, right? Because that's there's no backcountry, there's no quote unquote pow days. It's just rope tow and rails. And I never really got into rails that much. I was always scared of them when I was kind of learning how to snowboard. It was I was just learning on my own. I didn't really have I had that one couple first days with my brother's friend, but never really rode with them since. And I just kind of figured it out on my own. Made some friends. We all kind of started riding together, all at the same level. We all did that class of like go up with cameras and like try to film each other and um, try to like push each other to be better. But rails was always the thing that I was just so scared to try, because rails hurt. You've fallen and it's gonna hurt one way or the other. So I was always so scared. I was really fascinated about jumps, and I like to like hit the go off the jumps and hit side hits, and but yeah, rails wasn't really my thing until I actually towards the end of my time in Indiana, I moved out to Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's super sick, dude. I mean, I would love to get out to the Midwest and kind of check out some of those places. You see them out there and putting out so much talent and stuff like that, just like I said. So that's really cool. So you mentioned, you move out to Oregon. What was the first so did you come to Hood immediately? Was that kind of where you wanted to be and you kind of saw what it was like and what Timberline was like in the summer and the fact that you could ride almost all year and be up on the glacier in the summer? Was that really what drew you to Hood?
It was I kind of stumbled across Hood on accident. Not really on accident, but um kind of through a friend of a friend. So going into my college years, at this point there was like a good solid four of us where every Sunday we would go up to make the 4 hour round trip for 200-foot vert hills. And there was one of my friends, he had a buddy that worked at Timberline, and for a while he was like trying to get him to come out and visit. And at this point I've never really been west of the Mississippi. And Devin, he's like, hey man, like let's go visit my friend out in Oregon. Let's go do a snowboard trip to Oregon. And I was like, Oregon? What, all right, cool. I don't really know anything about Oregon, but yeah, let's do it. Sounds like fun. So I sold uh, my kayak to pay for a plane ticket to go fly out for this snowboard trip. And
Correct.
we come out, and dude, shout out to George Sanitas. He housed us and kind of showed us around and introduced us to Mount Hood and showed us a really good time and had a blast. And while I was there, I remember George, he mentioned, he was like, hey guys, like if you guys want a job next winter, let me know. We're like, okay, cool. And I kind of like put that in the back of my thought, and went back home and finished that semester of school, and wasn't really vibing with the whole college scene, and decided I was like, I'll give George a call and see what's up. And next thing you know, I was moving out to Oregon like 2 months later, got a job working retail at Timberline, and then that's kind of when I started learning really about Timberline and about the summer and everything that goes on there. Because beforehand, I didn't really know much.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, same here, dude. I grew up in a small town in Southern Oregon, small hill, Mount Ashland, four lifts, super awesome place though. It's a very small hill vibe, but it has a really steep runs, and when the powder's good, it's one of the best places that you can go, right on the border of California and Oregon.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of interesting, like the way that you described, like how you got out there. I mean, I move up to Portland, and this is like end of college and stuff like that, and I'm just like, maybe I'll try out like working up, and so I got hooked up with being a ski patroller up at Hood. Um, and basically, ski patrol host, not really like ski patrol, but kind of
Right.
helping out, just guiding people around. And that was, I feel like that was really beneficial for me, is because I would stand at the front doors of Timberline. If anyone's ever been to Timberline, like what we're talking about. It's the YE Stay Lodge. You walk in, and it's just, you can just tell it's a fucking vibe when you get there. Um, any listeners out there that haven't been up to Mount Hood any time of the year and haven't been to Timberline, please go. Like, please go make that experience, because especially in the spring and this and like the early summer, like the parks are just insane, and it's like it's one of the greatest places that you could ever be, honestly. But yeah, started out hosting, and then got hooked up with Steve Muse um at the ski school, and that's kind of like where like you and I met. And you
Right.
worked in the gift shop with a mutual friend of ours, Kaylin Cook's husband, Will Cook. Super awesome dude. Really, like, really one of the best people that you will meet up there. And Kaylin as well. Like, there's just so many good homies, and everyone's there for the same reason. Um, just to like, do it up, dude. Go snowboard or ski, whatever you want to do. Get into the parks, live that, gubby life, as we say. Um, and just have a good time. But yeah, dude, like, let's talk about Mount Hood, dude. Like the evolution, like when you got to Mount Hood, how do you feel like your riding evolved? You came from, the Midwest tow rope scene, and then you get out to Hood, and it's like, it's it's big mountain stuff. It's like big parks, big stuff. Did that like really help you in your freestyle game?
Oh, it was like it was a culture shock, really. Uh, like going from middle American town to government camp was quite a change. And I think I learned how to snowboard in the Midwest, but I learned what it meant to be a snowboarder on Hood. Uh, there's what it like just to like growing up. I always thought I was like, oh, I wanted to compete. I want to be a pro snowboarder. I want to go in the X Games and all that stuff. And then when I came to Hood, I was like, oh, dude, I just want to have fun. Like, that's what it's all about. It's just having fun. It's not about how good you are. It's about how much fun you have. And Hood really taught me like how to really, really have fun with it. And it taught me kind of like this is kind of where I started like getting at least what I think like my style. Because before I was very much a kook, just a kooky kid that didn't really know much. And then um, the friends that I made were awesome. And they brought me under the wing and really showed me the culture and just riding with. They've been some of the best riders I've ever ridden with, and just lapping with them. Just at first, just trying to keep up, and then mimicking their style and mimicking the tricks that they do, and seeing them do this, or like, oh, like I didn't even think about looking at it that way, and let me try to hit it this way, or let me try this or try that, and and then it over the years it just kind of evolved into becoming a better rider overall.
Yeah, yeah, and I hear that, dude. And you mentioned, George helping you out, and we both know George Sanditas, running Friday Snowboard Company right now, but formerly, Timberline merchandiser, marketing, stuff like that. He basically stocked out the gift shop with awesome stuff that everyone was stoked on, whether the outerwear and the soft goods and everything. And George is just like an ultimate homie, and he's always been so kind to, like new people coming in, and just is a awesome dude.
Right. I always like describe him as like he was like snowboarding Moses. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
always like described him as. I always very looked up to him, especially when I first rolled into town.
Yeah, and that's for sure. Yeah, and then he makes you feel welcome, and then you kind of learn like, and he's been he's been there for so long. He knows the vibe. Like he lives in Breeze Hood, and so like the vibe at Hood is just kind of like a different kind of thing. Like you probably won't find it too many other places across the country. It's pretty special. Just the community and everyone in government camp, all the way down to Welch's and stuff. Like we've you and I have been up there many times, and we spent years and years at that place and have so many homies and have stayed in different places. And I've been up here at Schweitzer, and I've gone, in the first few years, I still went back to cover my shifts at ski school with Steve. And, it was just a thing. Like it was something that I had to do. And, things change and stuff like that. But, right now I have, kids and, a wife and everything. And, you stay up here, but, you always miss it, dude. And you always want to go back to that place. Special place. And, dude, I remember it was so much fun, dude. Like when we started hanging out and stuff like that, and we had a mutual, friend, like Mike Jennings, kind of Big
Mm-hmm.
Mike took us under his wing, and like the trampoline sesh out in Troutdale and stuff. Like
Oh yeah, that was so much fun.
so much fun, dude. So much fun. I think that was like springtime, and spring at Hood is just so special. So like you can go up and you can, ride, and frickin' then you can go down to the lake, whether it be Trillium or one of the lakes, or go down back to the city and just like hang out and stuff, or in the country. It's super special.
Yeah,
But
springtime at Hood is just completely something else. I mean, like you were saying, there's really nothing like it, and I think it brings out the best rider in everybody. It brings out the
mhm.
best person in everybody, because at
it
some point or the other, regardless of where you're at, it always seems like everybody funnels through Timberline during the springtime, because everyone's mountain kind of closes down, and springtime at Timberline is still firing, and the spring pass is always really affordable. Best deal in the mountain, I always say. But
yeah.
yeah, it always brings out like just the gnarliest tricks, and it just gives people this energy boost that it's like, all right, let's go big, let's throw down, let's have fun.
Yeah. And when the flow park gets built, that's just like, it's game on. When flow
Oh
park is going, and especially when it's a year that they build the half pipe at the bottom of it or something,
hmm
like so much fun, dude.
yeah.
Shout out to a local writer up here at Schweitzer, homie Stefan. He's talked about the last 2 seasons getting the spring pass. He's like, I'm just gonna go down to Timberline and stay there, for a few weeks and stuff, and he never does it. So Stefan, you need to go, dude. Like, get with it, bro. So
Oh man,
um
you're missing out if you're not doing it.
no,
Yeah.
gotta get there, dude. But yeah, dude, going back to, meeting Will back at the gift shop, and the evolution of your guys' friendship, and you guys, he was on a wildland firefighting crew. I think, it was in Grand Ronde in Oregon, right?
Yep.
Where
Grand
you
Ron.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started your career in wildland firefighting then, and dude, just honestly, dude, like so much respect to you guys. Like you guys are like I feel like you're underappreciated a lot, and like, we all know that like the world is changing, and like fires, wildland firefighting is going to need to come to the forefront, and we're going to need to like understand, like we need to mitigate our forests and all this kind of stuff. But um talk about how like you got into that, and it kind of, I feel like, a lot of writers, you know a lot of writers do other things, and seasonal work and stuff, and wildland firefighting is a big part of like kind of like snowboard culture, honestly. Like there's a lot of really great snowboarders who are wildland firefighters, like Big Mountain Marissa out of Bend. Marissa, I can't even pronounce her last name, but she's a wildland firefighter, and she's a badass. But yeah, dude, talk about that. Like how did you just kind of want to feed um the your winter time with that revenue stream and into snowboarding. And what was your introduction into wildland firefighting?
Well, back in Indiana, I always had this fascination of being a firefighter. Ever since I was a little kid. Never really did anything with it, never really pursued it. And then I met Will, one of the goofiest fellows I've ever met. Super sweet guy. But worked the gift shop with them, and he was one of those coworkers where, you're working with them, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be fun. Super sweet guy, super funny. And one day I guess a friend of his got him onto a fire crew, and he's like, "Hey, I'm leaving this summer. I'm gonna go fight wildfires." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, you should do it." I'm like, "You think so?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, seems like fun." Um, so he did it for a season, and that same time, I was getting my first taste of summer snowboarding at that time, and then he comes back that winter. We work again together, and he's telling me all these stories about fighting fire. And he's like, "Hey, you should apply with me. Like, next summer rolls around." So I was like, "Okay, that sounds good." So I put in an application, put him down as a reference, and it was kind of funny that I actually didn't get the job right away. I was out of town for a snowboard event up at Crystal, and they called me for like an interview, and I was like, "Oh, I can't. Like, I'm out of town. Like, can we do it next week?" And then I just never heard from him again. I was like, "Oh, that's a bummer." Okay. So I tried again the next summer, and then they hired me on. And it's one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's and I mean, you're telling me that I get to go out into the woods with the boys and run chainsaws with fire and get paid for it. Like, sign me up. That sounds like fun. Um,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's I always describe it as like 90% of the time you're in complete misery, but 10% of the time it's some of the funnest stuff you'll ever do. And it makes up for the 90%. So yeah, I recommend it for anyone. I think it's
Yeah.
such a good job to do.
Yeah. And was that a Grand Ronde? Are they a hot shot crew?
No, so Grand Ron is a Type 2 IA crew.
Type two. Okay.
I
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear you.
IA standing for initial attack,
Hmm.
which means they could be like the first resource to respond to like a new start.
Okay. So is that, and so kind of walk us through that. Like, were you primarily building line for prevention, like kind of back away from the fire, or were you guys engaging a little bit closer?
So a lot of everything, really.
Okay.
The season's kind of it like the first roll of the season usually started out as like a severity roll. You get called out to a certain district and you're on patrol waiting for lightning strikes, any sort of new starts. So you're not like tied to an incident, you're tied to a district, and you wait for a fire call. And that's usually how the season starts out with your first roll. And a lot of times on when you get a fire call, you'll go out and you'll usually wrap it really quick. Go direct, as they say. You build hand line right on the fire line. Stop it, wrap it, put it out, and then you'll go back patrol. And then another start would happen. You go fight it, wrap it, put it out, and they call it like chasing lightning because a lot of times it's just lightning strikes.
Yeah.
But as the season goes on and more resource orders goes out to like campaign fires, like those mega fires that you hear in the news. And when you're tied to one of those, there's a wide a range of assignments that you get put on. Lately, in recent years, it's been common to do indirect tactics. So a lot of like line prepping. So you'll dig indirect hand line, so it's like far away from the fire front,
Mhm.
or you'll go to like a road and you'll prep it out. So they call it like a big box. So if there's a fire, perimeter right here, and then you'll just create a box around it, and then you'll prep
Okay.
the box for backburn, and then you'll burn it off, and then you have a contained fire. And a lot of more times than not, we would end up doing like prepping for burn, or we'll do indirect line construction. But every now and then we did hotline direct fire line construction, but it was mostly just brushing is what that crew kind of did.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually in the beginning of the season it gets a lot more sporty, as you can say, with like the
Yeah.
IAs and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a high level instructor up at Schweitzer. His name's Dan Stefano, and he's worked with Idaho lands, as you know, wildland firefighter for many years, and now he kind of runs his own engine crew up in Bonners County. And so he was, him and I talk about, firefighting and stuff, because it's always fascinating me. Where I grew up in Cave Junction, Oregon, there's a museum dedicated to the smoke jumpers that were based out of there in Southwest Oregon. And it was like one of the most elite crews that has ever existed. And it was like a major smoke jumping base. So I've always had wildland firefighting in my culture. Like when I was growing up and stuff, we had a private company that was really small when I was growing up called Grayback Forestry. And now they've kind of blown up and they're nationwide and stuff and kind of recruit everywhere. But it's really cool to see that, I feel like you guys need to be appreciated more, because you basically save people's homes and you save their lives all the time, because it's gnarly, dude. It's just crazy to see the fire season and the way it is like progressed. And in the last 5 years, it's kind of out of hand. It's just everywhere, and it's pretty gnarly.
Most people, they don't, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but like it seems like it's not really something people think about until it's happening nearby, or they smell smoke, or they see smoke, or where they're living is under some sort of level of evacuation. That's when they really care, which rightfully so. But it's like that classic, like, oh, if I don't see it, it's out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. Which I think that's kind of where like wildland firefighters kind of sit. But I also think that's slowly changing. I think it's becoming more of a not so much out of sight, out of mind, like more in the mind all the time situation, I guess is the best way I can put it. Yeah.
It's just kind of, as population grows, so do the fires, and the fires creep into that population now. And you see a merge between urban culture and, rural land. Like the fire's going to come in from usually from a place that's kind of remote. And whether it be, whatever has happened, like Paradise, California, or honestly, Ashland, Oregon, and Phoenix and Talent, Oregon, down in my hometown, like a little brush fire started, but then the winds, just took it. And it was like, 80-mile-an-hour east winds, and it took it right into like a suburban neighborhood, and just torched it, dude, melted everything. And it's just, the weather's getting kind of crazy and stuff, and the conditions get gnarly. And so you have to kind of be on your shit like all the time, and like be very, very careful of what you do nowadays. And you guys, like the safe, like I respect how safe you guys are. Like you guys aren't going to like risk yourself. Like you're going to be safe. You're going to get into the black if you need to, or whatever you need to do to like make sure that your crew is safe before anything else. So yeah, just much respect, dude.
It's it's not worth human life by any stretch of the imagination. Like it's not worth getting hurt over it. But as I had a crew boss tell me, is like, it's not dangerous, it's just hazardous. Yeah, and you can mitigate hazard, but you can't really mitigate danger, I guess. But it's not worth getting hurt over. But it happens. It happens all the time.
Oh yeah. 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 Have you ever watched not to be corny or anything, but my wife and I, we love that movie Only the Brave.
Yeah, I watched that.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's so coming from your perspective, you're an actual wildland firefighter, like was that a solid movie, or was it kind of, did they like kind of embellish a lot of things?
It's kind of funny. Actually, I watched it for the first time before my first season, and I was pretty interested of, the accuracy of it. So I was like, I rewatched it again, and I'd say like it's pretty. I think it does a fair job. There's a few things here and there that are maybe exaggerated or a little bit more Hollywood, so to speak. But I mean, it's it's not too terribly far off.
Solid movie.
Yeah, as a film, oh, it's an amazing film, and I think it did a really good justice
Yeah.
to the Grand Mountain Hot Shots. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. I was just recently was getting a haircut, and my barber, he was a firefighter, and he was telling me a fun story how he took his uh took his girlfriend to go see it, and not realizing how the ending was going to play out.
Hmm.
And On the way home from the movie theater, he got a call out to go on a fire, and
Oh no.
his poor girlfriend was not too stoked.
Oh no. Ooh, bad move.
Yeah, I was
Because
like,
yeah,
ooh, that's
this
unfortunate.
is unfortunate timing right there.
Yeah,
Maybe if it a couple days passed, but right
something
away
you're
where you're
doing.
like, oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but if no one's seen that movie, like highly recommend the story of the Granite Mountain Hotshots, who were one of the first municipal hotshot crews in the country. So yeah, really cool story, really good movie. But yeah, dude. So you're no longer with Grand Ronde. You've switched crews, right? Who are you with right now?
yeah. Now I'm working with the Salmon River Hotshots. They're
Cool.
based out of like the Southern Klamath, out of like Fort Jones, California.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And how's so you're a hot shot now. Um was that did you have to do a lot of training for that, or is it like once you join the crew they kind of like take you under their wing and kind of train you how the crew does things and you become a hot shot once you're hired?
So it's still pretty new to me. I ended up taking last summer off. Kind of pursued a few things. It was my first summer in Bend,
Hmm.
and I really wanted to pursue parachute sports. So I took a summer off and kind of went in that parachute direction for a little while, uh,
Hmm.
and had the itch to go back. And I was very fortunate to have a really solid dude, Will Robbins. I fought fire with him on Grand Ron for a couple of years, and he went to Salmon River Shots for last summer, and he ended up moving to Salt Lake, joining a different shot crew. But on his departure, he left a really good word for me, and in doing so, I applied for the job, talked with some of the higher ups, and they offered it to me, and I actually just got my official offer letter a couple days ago.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thanks. And yeah, I don't really, I kind of know what to expect, but it's like that same boat of I don't really know what to expect. I just know to show up and do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's awesome, dude. And kudos, like becoming a hotshot is a really, really big deal. Um, the special forces of wildland firefighting, and they go in and they engage the fire directly, and it's pretty gnarly. So, respect. But you mentioned parachute sports, man. Like what got you into that? I remember like back at Hood, like you and Cameron. So shout out Cameron Dean, Dirty Dean 96 on Instagram. He's a homie. He's a ski school homie of mine. Like had many fun nights with Cameron. Many good times with Jason and Cameron, and it's a good time. But you guys you started out skydiving, and you guys really got into that, and then you got into parachute jumping, and I see you going out there, into the gorge and stuff and going off cliffs when it's good and the wind is right and stuff like that. Like the evolution of that is crazy. So you weren't satisfied with just like skydiving. You wanted to go to the next level. Like, how'd that come to be, dude?
So I skydiving was something that I knew that I was gonna want to do since I was like 6, 7. I don't know, but too young for my parents to be okay with. Shout out to my parents. I've given them a lot of heart attacks in the years, but they've been very supportive. And I remember I told my, as long as I remember, like, Mom, I want to go skydiving. She's like, right, all right, yeah. When you turn 18, you do it with your own money. You can do it. So I was like, okay. I got my first job when I was 16 or 17. And the second I turned 18, I went and did my first skydive. And that was actually kind of a funny story. Me and my friend Tristan Ingstrom, it was post prom, and everybody would go to like Six Flags after prom and do all that, but him and we wanted to go skydiving, and we invited our dates, but they declined for some reason. So yeah, we the next day we went and did our first skydive together out in Plymouth, Indiana. And I was like, yep, this is it. I'm hooked. This is amazing. It was the most euphoric experience of my life. And it's so fascinating because you build up this idea of it for so long. And it was my first time in an airplane too. So that didn't help. And I'm riding up in this sardine can Cessna, and we get up to altitude, and I'm anxious. I'm nervous. But as soon as I left the plane, I just pure bliss. It was the most euphoric experience. So landed on top of the world. It's cloud 9. And I was immediately thinking, how am I going to get my license? Like, that's kind of where my head was. I was like, I want to skydive. And it was that and snowboarding. I was like, I want to snowboard forever. I want to skydive forever. How do I make that work? So, going into college and being a broke college kid, I decided that there was a drop zone that opened up like 20 minutes from my house, and I was like, okay, that'd be cool. Let's go check it out. Let's see what they're all about. And I had no idea how I was going to pay for my skydive license because it's about $3,000, and that's a lot for a 19-year-old college student. So I show up and they're like, hey, like, you can work here part-time to help pay for your skydive. So that's what I did. I worked as a grounds crew kind of fellow for a while, and then I started packing tandems for him towards the second half of the summer, and I never saw a single dime that came because it just went straight to my skydiving. And by the end of the summer, I got my A license, and I was stoked. And then I moved to Oregon, and then I met Cameron Dean, an absolute kook of a character. And working at Timberline, we got these letters to other resorts, but we also got these letters to go to like indoor skydiving and Tiger at iFly in Portland. Yep. And Cameron was jonesing on that. He was stoked. He's like, oh dude, like, you just gotta, like, come on, let's go to the wind tunnel. And that's kind of how we became friends. We would take trips down to iFly and go fly around in this wind tunnel. And I was like, gee, you should get into skydiving. And then once he got his first skydive in, it was like just whiskey throttled it, just foot to the floor. And he went from 0 to like 300 skydives in like 2 years. He just went all out, and it was amazing to see. He loves it. And we did the kookiest things. It was so much fun.
Yeah, dude. I remember that time, and you guys going to, you would go to iFly together, but then you also went to Skydive Awesome in Madras, right? Is where they're based out of. And those like, it was so cool to see because, I know Cameron, like, saw him every single day at ski school and stuff. And he always was so kind, just like George, dude. Like, just the vibe was just so awesome. And he was he's a kook, like, he's a super, but he's been there forever. He's just like, he grew up in Hood. And to see you guys like bond over that and do that, and Oh man, those videos were insane. Like the formations that you guys would do and break off and do all this crazy shit up in the air. I was just like, dude. Like my wife, she's been skydiving. She went skydiving in Hawaii long time ago before we ever met, but she said it was like one of the best. She was like, she went to the beach the day before and got super sunburnt, but she still went. And she was like, I didn't even care because I was flying through the air. And she did a tandem jump over, I think Maui. Yeah, Maui was where she was, and she was like, never, never gonna ever experience anything like that again. Want to do it again, hands down, one of the best experiences of my life. So and I'm sketched out, dude. Like, I mean, I feel
You
like
gotta do it.
I know, dude. I know I need to do it, but oof. But
It's
sometimes I just think of like, honestly, we've been watching Band of Brothers. Recently, I'm trying to get her into it, and I don't know if you've ever watched Band of Brothers about the 101st Airborne Easy Company.
it's easily one of the best series ever made.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And she's starting to get into it, like the characters and stuff, and like all those guys. And I'm just like, dude, if I go skydiving, all I'm gonna do the whole time I go up is just like think about like what they did, dropping into Normandy, and be like, you need to like sack up, bro, and like just jump out of this plane. And it's gonna be a clear day, and you're gonna see like all the terrain. And you're gonna be way up. It would be so fucking sick, dude. Like, but
Yeah. I mean, what's the
that's
worst that
awesome.
can happen? I mean, it's when I
You
worked at a
die.
drop. Well,
At least you died
come
going
on.
out hard.
Yeah, at least you're having fun doing it. That's what I
But
would say.
dude, I mean, you could die when you snowboard, dude. You
Yeah,
could
man.
break your neck on a freaking rail. Like it's the
Yeah.
same, same
It's
risk.
just risk reward,
Yeah,
But
risk reward,
yeah,
dude.
I will say, Cam always had the funniest ideas. Like there was this one time he called me up. He was like, "Hey man, have you ever done that thing with like a condom and you held it out the window of a car and you know how it blows up in the wind?" I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Okay, what if we jumped out of a plane holding condoms? Do you think it will do the same thing?" And I'm like, "You know what? Let's try it out." So we went to the Chevron there in Govey and like, bought a box of condoms, drove out to Madras, and myself, him, and our friend Brenda Lockwood, we all had our condoms in hand and took the airplane up. And in the plane, we're undoing the wrapper, like getting it ready, and door opens. We all jump out and we get into our, we start falling, and we open up our condoms, and mine blew up completely. And somebody was filming outside video, and you see the three of us like struggling to get these condoms open. And then mine blows up, and then you see me just fly off out of frame. So for about 2 seconds, I flew a condom, and it was the most fun I've ever had with a condom.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dude. Like that. I feel like I remember seeing that one. I'm like, dude, these guys are just getting out of control. This is awesome to
That was
see.
so much fun.
So you're skydiving, you're like doing it all the time, going down to Madras, doing all that kind of stuff. And then what piqued your interest into what you're doing now with like the parachute jumping, off of cliffs and stuff? Like that's gnarly stuff, dude.
So there's kind of two disciplines to focus on in skydiving. There's your free flying, which is the free fall aspect. You kind of like, you can fly your body in any which formation that you'd like or orientation. And then there's canopy piloting. So, there's two halves to a skydive, and I was kind of more intrigued on the canopy piloting. And I've seen these videos on Instagram, on social media, of these speed flyers, like just barrel rolling down canyons and down mountains. And I'm like, wow, that's ballsy. And also looks pretty fun. And there's a group of guys over at that drop zone that were speed flyers, and they're like, "Hey man, you ever thought about getting into speed flying?" I was like, "Yeah, I kind of thought about it," and I kind of picked their brains a little bit. And they told me, "He's like, yeah, like if you're to get a wing, you should get like a 15 meter or something or another." I was like, "Okay." So I kind of browsed around a little bit. I got an invitation to go stay out in New Mexico for a while. An old mountain bites homie, Ali Montgomery,
Hmm.
and her family. They housed me for a little while. Went down there to visit, and her dad kind of taught me a little bit more about paragliding in a whole. And her uncle actually sold me my first speed wing while I was down there. And when I came
Nice.
back from New Mexico, I had a speed wing, and I just kind of tried it out and started like on the ground with like kiting and whatnot. And I went out to the dune over at Cape Kiwanda, and
Hmm.
just laps on that thing, just trying to get reps, trying to figure out like kind of how to do it, because it translates a little bit with skydiving, but not a whole lot. It's kind of like a new thing in and of itself. And yeah, it took a long time to kind of get a little comfortable with it. And there's another group of homies that would go out to Pine Mountain here in Central Oregon, and we started getting reps on that. And eventually, it just my wing got a little bit smaller and smaller, and the mountains got bigger and bigger, and it got more and more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Oof. That's crazy stuff. Have you ever thought about doing pulling a Victor De La Rue and kiting into with your snowboard on, going down a glacier or something like that? That'd be crazy.
I actually have a Actually, I really want to. I want to learn how to ski, and then I want
Yeah.
to incorporate that with speed flying. It's called speed riding,
Yeah.
and it just seems like it'd be so much fun to one know how to ski, two put a parachute over my head and ski down a mountain. It sounds like so
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of what I where I kind of want to take it is do more snow parachuting, if that makes sense. More speed riding is what I
Yeah.
want to do.
Speaking of, like going out into the backcountry and stuff, like, do you have a split board right now?
I do not.
Okay.
That's actually the next thing that I kind of want to evolve and expand my horizons, get more into the backcountry.
Yeah. So you know Pete Alpor?
Yes.
So just finished up a podcast with him last week. Um, fascinating fucking podcast, dude. Like the mayor of Bend, in my opinion. I mean, he's just kind of mentored all the greatest out of there and stuff like that. But that's why I mentioned that getting the split board, dude. Like, you're a Bend local now. You moved to Bend. How many years ago did you move to Bend?
Not too long ago. Just I moved here a year and some change ago, like September
Hmm.
of what year was it? What year is it? 2024, 2023. Of
22.
yeah, September 22. There we go.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, and speaking about Pete and stuff, like not to like shout out Pete's camp out or anything like that, but if you want to find out about it, hit up Pete Alpor, DM him. He runs a sick camp out up around Bend, and it's kind of like a local kind of thing. So if you're around Bend, hit him up. But just speaking on that, dude, like, do you think so? You want to get into the backcountry and stuff? What's that kind of looking like? Are you like a lot of us get kind of burnt out on the resort life, and I bet Bachelor can be pretty crowded most days and stuff with everyone like kind of migrating towards that area and the Pacific Northwest in general. But is the backcountry something that like you've kind of thought about and is like it's appealing to me just in the fact like I feel like it's really fun to get out there with your homies and split board and like even though you only take like maybe one or two runs, like it's just an awesome banter fest. Like, is it something that you're like interested in right now?
Yeah, it's been something that I've thought about for a while. Never really made the effort to get into it. I think what really did it for me was actually speed flying. Um,
Yeah.
was the thought of it, of like seeing these mountains, like, and it takes backcountry experience to go skin up a mountain, and whether you ride down or you fly down, like, you should have backcountry experience. And it was kind of that kind of was the catalyst to me. Like, all right, like it's time to make that step and start learning about it, get my toes in the water, and
Hmm.
see how I can do it safely. Um, and I have a lot of really really good resources here in Bend.
Yeah.
Um, and I decided that next winter is going to be the winter I get a split board and give that a go, see how it goes, and
Hmm.
kind of take it from there. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned, the Bachelor does get pretty busy, and I remember there was a specific day this year when I rolled up. It was like a Wednesday, and the parking lot was like almost completely full. And I was like, you know what? Like the backcountry seems so peaceful. Like no one's out there,
Hmm.
and I have a buddy Oz. Shout out to Ultralight Oz on Instagram. He is my favorite backcountry rider right now. He is a wonderful friend, wonderful
Hmm.
rider, and all the clips that he posts and all the things that he does is like it's so inspiring. And that's kind of really what's been pushing me as well to get out in the backcountry.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems so nice. And, shout out, to Oz, and also shout out to Ian Barker Kortrek. Actually grew up with Ian all the way through elementary, middle school, high school in Cave Junction, Oregon. And now Ian is very well versed in the backcountry, has a sled, has a split board. He presses his own boards, and he also works for Snowplanks pressing their boards. Um, his board company is called Barcore Snowboards. Um, but he moved to Bend. Gosh, he was in Portland when I was in Portland, and then he moved to Bend, I think maybe a couple years before you. But he's lived in the same house as Will Dentist, who is shout out Will Dentist on Instagram at Will Dentist. Super awesome homie. You need a car worked on out there in Bend, that's the guy to see. Works on a lot of Subarus and stuff like that. But he has kind of gotten in with Pete a little bit, going out to the spring camp out and stuff like that, and is really well versed in the backcountry. So it's really cool to see like you coming from a place like we met up at Hood. He and I like lived, freaking grew up together and stuff, and to see everyone kind of merge onto Bend, like the Bend scene is just out of hand right now. Like the level of talent in Bend right now is just not okay. It's stupid, dude. Like there's they talk about on the bomb hole all the time, like the rivalry between Bend and Salt Lake, and like the talent, like all the pro riders and all it's just like it's clashing right now, and it's kind of funny to see. So how are you liking Bend, dude? Like, is it everything that you thought it would be? Like, I grew up in Southern Oregon, and every time like when I went to Bend, it was always the best. Bend to Bend a lot, growing up in Oregon and stuff, but it's it's pretty cool. Like, how are you liking it? Is it getting busy a little bit too much for you, or is it still just doing okay?
Bend is everything I hoped for and more.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I spent what like 5 years out in like Welch's up on
Mm-hmm.
Hood, and I just kind of felt like it was time for a change. New scenery. I love Bachelor, and I really liked visiting Bend a lot. And I one day I had a very fortunate opportunity to move in with some friends, and took it up and left and came to Bend. And it's been, at first it was pretty overwhelming because I mean those that have been through Hood, spent time in like Welch's, Rhododendron, Government Camp, like it kind of feels like there's like this isolated feeling to that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you come to Bend and there's just so many more people.
Yeah.
And I think it's larger than the town I grew up in. So it's the biggest town I've ever lived in. Um, and there was always something to do. Always. There's always music, somewhere, always like things to do, shows to see, and there's always something going on. And at first I was like, whoa, this is a lot happening. But then I got used to it very quickly, and it's the people are really nice, and like I said, there's always something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the talent here, like you said, it's just I don't know if it's something in the water, but kids that come out of Mount Bachelor, they just They're like a different breed of riders.
Yeah.
There's something about it.
Yeah.
Uh, Growing up riding Bachelor, like it's just such a playful terrain that it kind of, I don't know, it helps you become a better rider. I don't know what it is, but it's just something about it.
Yeah, I'm a snowboard nerd instructor, so Bachelor, as a lot of people have heard, is fairly flat. So it forces you to know how to control your speed and edge your board in a way that a lot of people just probably won't understand. I mean, Timberline's a lot like that too. Like you have to know when to go fast and straight line it or when to carve. And Steve Muse, my boss at Timberline, always said that he's like, is there anything other than carving? Like I don't do anything unless I carve. Like why would I snowboard unless I'm carving all the time? And sometimes he's right because the people that can carve are the ones that can always hold a line, and it looks way sicker when you hold your line on your edge when you pop off a jump or anything like that than is somebody who just like kind of whitewashes a little bit and then they hit it. It just looks much cleaner, and that's why the Norwegian riders have always been so sick to me. Like Stale is my favorite rider of all time, but they all hold cards like nothing else. So um but yeah, dude, Bachelor, I grew up and the treat was always Bachelor, maybe once or twice a season. And we would go up to Sun River and stay up there and like go hit it over a weekend and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, I know like, Ben's getting bigger and it's getting more busy and stuff like that, but it's still the community is still intact. I feel everyone is kind of like doing the same thing, has the same vibe, and everyone kind of still looks out for each other. Um, Kind of the same way I feel like up here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, dude. Like it's I when I got here, I was like, oh, this is like the Bend of Idaho almost. Like it's super cool. Sandpoint's the same kind of way, just like kind of like lake or river vibes, and then everyone gets down in the winter and gets out there and shreds as much as they can. But yeah, dude, it's really cool to see that you got down there. Because I feel like that's the place like for your growth as a snowboarder. And then you also can always go back to Hood and you can access, your paragliding stuff and go up to Skydive Awesome. So that's a really cool place for you to go. Like it's awesome to
Yeah.
see you down there.
I will say the most unfortunate part of moving to Bend was the year that I moved to Bend, Skydive Awesome actually shut down their doors.
Oh no.
Yeah, they closed down. But and that kind of pressured me to, back into speed flying. I was like, oh, I can drive 45 minutes and hike up a hill and fly off of it as much as I want, or I can drive
Yeah.
3 hours and go pay for skydiving. So that's kind of, I naturally got more into speed flying that way.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, and when I lived at Hood, Bachelor was a treat. Go
Hmm.
down every couple times a winter, and now living here and being a Bachelor local, Hood's a treat. And it's every time I
Right.
go up, it's just so special to go back. And my heart lives there, and it's a,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the same with like some of like kind of like the local legends out there, like Mobility Duo, Sarah and Mark.
Hmm.
You've worked with them a little bit doing some like trampoline clinics and stuff like that. That's super sick to see, dude. And they relish Hood, like their time at Timberline and stuff. And the same, it's a cool vibe to see, people coming from the same place and moving to the same place and collaborating with each other. I always love to see that. But dude, let's talk about so are you so we mentioned George Sanitas a little bit earlier, and George owns his own snowboard company, Friday Snowboard Company. Shout out. Let's go check out the snowboards. They're super sick. They got some awesome designs, awesome shapes. Are you sponsored by them right now?
I'm not.
Okay.
I don't have any sponsorships at the moment.
Okay. Does so you support, right?
Yep.
So I see you riding George's board, so that's just like kind of he helped you out and you're gonna help him out, in riding those boards. How are those boards right now? How are they feeling? What are you
So
riding?
I rode his Reaper. which I don't think is available anymore. He's come out with a couple lines since.
Yeah.
Um, but I rode that till the absolute wheels fell off, and it took a lot for those wheels to fall off.
Yeah.
I, I, it was the most bulletproof board I've ever had. I remember when he gave it to me, he's like, here, like, I want you to try and break this board. I was like, okay. So I rode it. I've never ridden a board harder, and it held up amazingly. And it wasn't until recently, the inserts kind of started to pop out a little bit.
Hmm.
And it took like 3 years of just abuse. Those things are bulletproof and they're so much
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. So they're affordable and they're durable and they're great design. And
Yeah.
I support him because, he's such a good friend of mine. And
Hmm.
I'd love to see him with this startup company. And, I'd love to see like how far it's kind of like you go to ski bowl, you go to the rope toe, and they're just Friday boards everywhere. And it's
Yeah.
awesome to see. But yeah, I just never miss up an opportunity to support
Hmm.
his company. And yeah, if you're looking for an affordable, durable board, go check out Friday Snowboards.
Yeah.
They might got what you need.
Yeah. George is the ultimate homie. Knuckle underscore troll on Instagram. Go check out George's stuff. He's a steezy snowboarder all the time. He doesn't just make snowboards. He can ride them too. He's got some of the coolest style I've ever seen. Along with Jason, of course. But Jason's more of a big hucker. You know what I mean? Like Jason goes freaking big. I remember you came up here to Schweitzer and came to visit one of our mutual homies, Bree. Shout out Bree Tweety, new mom. Congratulations, Bree. And but I remember you came up and I saw a clip that she took of you, and it was icy. It was like freaking like opening weekend, and it was fake snow and stuff, and there was just this little lip, and you just fucking chucked a fucking backflip off it, and it was so big. I've never seen anything quite like that, and I always used to see you throw down at the Timberline parks and stuff, whenever you were out there. But what the thought process of like going that big? Do you just like are you calculated, or are you just like, nah, let's just go big? Like I really don't care. Like I know that I have the fundamentals and stuff like that to do it, um, and everything, but yeah, what's your thought process on like the big jumps that you take?
I'd say it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
A lot of it's calculated,
Hmm.
and also a lot of it's like just repetition. And every time I go snowboard, I try to get upside down at least like once or twice, regardless of what the conditions are. Um, and the more time you do it, the you know the more muscle memory you'll have, and the easier it is, and it becomes natural at that point where you can look at anything. I could probably backflip that, or no, I can front flip that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, especially with like the big jumps and with springtime, uh, that's when I say I think it brings out the best riders of everybody because the snow is soft and it's the margin of error um, becomes less daunting. Where if you don't get it around, like you might be all right as compared to like a midwinter kind of day where it's more hard or firm. So you just try bigger tricks, um, and Bachelor was where I learned how to do my first double backflip.
Hmm.
Um, but that was my first time doing it on like a park jump. And
Into what's next for you? Like you're such an adventurer and stuff, and you do so many things. Like, are you staying in Bend for a while, you think, or what's going on?
as far as I know, I reckon I'm probably gonna stick around Bend for a while. If I do up and go, it'd probably be Salt Lake,
Yeah.
because that's like the mecca for parachutes, speed flying, paragliding, skydiving. It's like the place to be if you're into parachute sports and snow sports. Like that's so if I do up and move, that's probably where I'm gonna go. But I think
Nice.
really what I'm shooting for is really want to get into the pilot seat and start learning how to fly airplanes and get into aviation. It's been something that's been on my radar for a while now. I've just been waiting for a means to do it, and I think sticking around Bend and trying to swing that direction is kind of what I'm shooting for.
Yeah. Nice, dude. Yeah, I mean, Salt Lake's not a bad option. Everyone seems like Bend and Salt Lake are kind of the hot places right now. So dude, let's get into a little bit of hot takes. Okay. Um, some hot takes. Okay. In your opinion, you spent some time in Bend. Who's the mayor of Bend?
Ooh, the mayor of Bend. Oh, geez. I'm just gonna say it. It's Pete Alport through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go. Hey, Bombhole, get at Pete Alport. The guy gets mentioned on your podcast so much. We need to Pete Alport. I interviewed him last week, but I think I would love to see him on the Bombhole soon. So the mayor of Bend. Who's the mayor of Hood?
Oh, Jiminy. Mayor of Hood. I would say George Sanitas, in my
Yep.
opinion, with Friday snowboards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yep. The man, dude. And if you don't know George, like, get at him, dude. He's the man. So, okay, a little bit of rapid fire for you. Okay, let's do some rapid fire questions. So, what's the worst trend in snowboarding?
The worst trend in snowboarding, like ever or right now?
Right now.
Right now? Oh, geez. I think. Oh man, I would say. Oh wow, probably the influencer culture. Like go up,
Mm-hmm.
be an influencer, and not actually snowboard. It's
Yeah.
probably one of my least favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah. Word,
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, for sure. And so, are you rocking pants or bibs?
pants.
Goggles or glasses?
Ooh, that really depends. 95% of the time, it's goggles.
Cool. Slush or pow?
God.
Slush Park Day, Ultimate Pow Day.
Oh, okay. All right. This is a tough one, but I'm gonna have to say, son of a. Uh, okay. It's just because it's springtime right now, and I'm gonna say slush day.
No word.
No.
All right. If you had to pick 3 people in your life to take on the ultimate heli trip, and it's just the most insane powder and best terrain you've ever ridden, who you taking?
I'm probably gonna take my buddy Todd Graham, here in Bend. My friend back home, Devin Lytle,
Mm-hmm.
and Cameron Dean.
Yeah. All right. I
Yeah.
love to hear it, dude. Nice, dude. Well, dude, I just want to say, thank you thank you so much for joining the podcast. It really means a lot to me, and it was really great to catch up with you. So let's wrap it up. And if you want to shout anybody out, that's helped you out in your life or anything like that, just go for it.
I'm just gonna go out and say, Lifty's Bar and Grill, that whole staff, that whole establishment. I'm just gonna shout them out. Best bar in Bend, best bartenders, wonderful crew, and most, if not all of them, they're all rippers too. Todd Grimm, Chloe Smith, all those folks, great folks, good friends.
All right. Well, you heard from Jason, dude. So that was, the latest rendition of Let's Talk Snowboarding. And we're going to bring you guys more episodes, hopefully more often, but every 2 weeks we'll be coming out with an episode. And we just want to thank Jason, so much for joining the podcast, and we will talk to you guys on the next one. Later.